The full moon in Pisces on Wednesday, August 30th, highlights the Sun Saturn opposition and calls for sober thinking, compromise, and sacrifice. Time to look at things honestly and make adjustments. Let's take a closer look. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you like my work, please like and comment, subscribe, and don't forget to press the notification bell. And if you feel so inclined, you can thank me by buying me a coffee. Additionally, if you'd like to work with me, you can book a reading at anastasiadoesastrology.com. On my website, you can also find the full selection of my magical astrological candles and oils that I create at the most benevolent times, and they serve various purposes, from helping to clear your mind to helping improve your relationships. If you need advice on which candle or oil would be best for you, let me know in the comments down below. So this full moon is happening on Wednesday, August 30th at 9:35 p.m. Eastern in 7 degrees 25 minutes of Pisces. And you will feel it especially strongly if you have any planets 3 degrees before and 3 degrees after, so roughly from 4 to 10 degrees Pisces or any other mutable sign, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. So that is how you can tell whether this full moon will be more significant for you or not. And it completes a cycle that got started on February 20th when we had a new moon in Pisces, right? New moon is always planting a seed. Pisces is the sign of a dreamer. And here we either have a dream coming true or we have a need to pivot, adjust, and make changes, which to me, this full moon definitely feels like the latter. The dream, of course, can come true, but it requires some adjustments, like I said in the beginning of this video. Just to catch us up, right, at this point in the astrological journey of the sun and the moon, we just had the Sun Saturn opposition on August 27th. And Sun Saturn opposition is always, if the sun is your ideal, Saturn reveals the flaws in the ideal. Saturn asks you to sacrifice. Saturn asks you to give something up, right? So there could have been delays, roadblocks, rejection, some kind of fallen paternal authority figures, and a need to face tough truths, a need to be kind of thoughtful and willing to give something up in order to get something more important, right? It's like if you want to get the job, you have to give up the freedom to wake up at 10 a.m., for example. So even though this transit happened on August 27th and the full moon is happening 3 days later, the moon picks up the energy of the Sun-Saturn opposition because it conjoins Saturn on the way to oppose the sun. So now that we have faced the shadows and we have faced the difficulty, we are called with the full moon, we are called to process the loss, right? It has the potential to be a very emotional full moon, and make the changes that we need. So like I said, and I called this video as like a need to sacrifice something. We have the opposition between the moon and Pisces. Pisces is a dreamer. Pisces is kind of up in the clouds, and Virgo is a hard realist, right? Feet on the ground. So when we have an opposition between the sun and moon, a full moon, there's a need to balance the two. There's a need to be grounded and rational, especially so, even more so with the moon conjunct Saturn, right? As we're still dreaming, but Saturn in Pisces has very much an energy of like melancholy. It has an energy of needing to release some of our ambitions. We go down to come up. So major themes of letting something go, major themes of processing some pain, some loss, maybe questioning your goals, questioning your purpose, right? On the positive, this full moon can encourage you to forgive, to move on, right? If somebody has wronged you in the past, instead of holding on to the trauma and the pain and the difficulty, you can perhaps release it. And building the trust in the universe, I think, is another major theme here, because if things don't seem to be going your way right now, if you feel like you're struggling and things seem darker than they are, you gotta trust. You gotta have the guiding light of faith, whatever it is, in astrology, in your mother, in your relationship, in yourself. Always have that faith in yourself. Just trusting that the universe is guiding you, that the universe is on your side, and that you will get through it. So I think this full moon to me is very much a call for that faith. And Pisces is very much a sign that's connected to something beyond ourselves, right? Do not expect to be extra productive around this full moon. It's better to sort of take it easy. You may feel melancholic. You may feel kind of sad and lonely and frustrated or blocked. So do not expect this energy to lift up really quickly. Instead, try to take it easy, try to be kind to yourself, maybe take a nap, right? Take a bath, maybe journal, do things that will make your Piscean little fish proud. So let's take a look at each of the 12 rising signs and discuss what you can expect, what this full moon can be for you. So if you are an Aries rising, there's a full moon in Pisces in your 12th house, and it conjoins Saturn. And here you're having to look very closely and very honestly at your blind spot, at the things that you're doing that are not serving you. And that could be, there's like potentially a lot of different possibilities, right? This could be drinking a bit much. This could be postponing getting your life together. This could be being self-critical of yourself. So take a look back if you've experienced any breakthroughs or any kind of ideas and plans surrounding your mental health on February 20th when we had the new moon in Pisces. Perhaps if you've started therapy, this could be the time of a turning point, or the time when you realize that you're not making much progress with this therapist and you choose to go with somebody else. Or it could be the time when you face the shadows and release a bad habit. You're trying to balance the sun in the 6th house, which is work, with Saturn and the moon in the 12th house, which is rest, right? You're trying to find a good balance, and like Saturn in the 12th is probably saying that you cannot just escape your escape your problems through working too much. Like you really need to have a better flow. And so this full moon is saying you gotta address the shadows. You gotta spend some time taking care of your mental health. You gotta clear your kind of mind and rest and take a break. So this could also be very much about sacrificing some kind of project or taking a step from some kind of professional ambition in order to have a better mental health. So let me know how this resonates, and let me know what was happening in your life around late February when we had a new moon in Pisces. If you are a Taurus rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 11th house. And here we're dealing with tension between pleasure, with the sun in your 5th house, pleasure, creativity, joy, romance, children, and your responsibility to the collective, the duties you have to other people, the social relationships, right? And responsibilities basically to the collective. And you're likely to have to make sacrifices in those areas, right? Like with the full moon in the 11th house, especially the full moon conjunct Saturn, like having to look very seriously at your dreams, at your aspirations, and ask what's realistic, right? Like, is it realistic to be a parent and also be like the chair of some committee, right? Or maybe it's not. Maybe you need to rethink some of your engagements. Maybe due to your changing maternity status, or you're like becoming a parent, or due to your creative projects, or due to your relationships, you have to rethink your friendships, right? You have to let go of some relationships that are not satisfying and not supportive, or like maybe some people who are stuck in the past, and bring forth new relationships. And sometimes you really have to be honest with yourself. Like, are you dragging the dead horse? Are you kind of holding on to things and people that are not helpful to you? And similarly with projects that you're pursuing and dreams that maybe that right now it's just not the time. Because I think in order to reach either personal success or professional success, you need to be ready to give something up. So to me, this full moon is asking this important question as far as what are you willing to give up? If you are a Gemini rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 10th house. So you're completing a professional chapter, right? And we just had the Sun in the 4th house oppose Saturn in the 10th house. So tensions in terms of your mental health and your well-being brought upon by work. So something in your life, you know, you're seeking peace, you're seeking balance, you're seeking new beginnings and new place of living, but work matters can be a bit aggravating right now, or challenging, or you're facing some kind of blocks and delays and restrictions when it comes to your vision of the future. So the full moon conjunct Saturn in the house of career is asking, first of all, what do you want? What do you desire? And then how much are you willing to sacrifice for it? Because there's very kind of strong potential to either sacrifice something in the area of the home or sacrifice something in the area of work, right? Like in the area of the home, for example, if you are choosing to work instead of going to spend time with your family, right? Or maybe you're prioritizing family right now and you're choosing to give up of a project that could potentially be very rewarding or financially beneficial. You're choosing to spend time with family. So like needing to have this really asking deep questions and trying to find a better balance between your work and your home life. A friend sent me a video the other day, like it was this guy on Instagram, I can't remember who it is, but he's like this guru, and he was talking about like whatever that work-life balance, if you're trying to have a balance, it's unhealthy, you shouldn't live as much as you work. He was like, you should live way more than you work. So some important questions, and let me know what was starting in your professional life in February. We had a new moon in Pisces in February 20th. So what kind of projects, what kind of dreams you've been working on at the time. If you are a Cancer rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 9th house, and you're experiencing a transformation of faith. You are releasing old beliefs, you are completing education, you're completing a journey of some sorts. 9th house represents foreign lands, foreign journeys. You are potentially closing a legal matter if you've been involved with some kind of legal matter. We just had the Sun in the 3rd house oppose Saturn in your 9th house, which suggests having to make some tough decisions related to education, travel, writing, teaching, scheduling matters. So I think you're looking very seriously at what the next chapter of your life will be, especially with this full moon in the 9th. And as you're closing one chapter, you're questioning what's the upcoming journey will be about, right? So having to be very realistic about the amount of time you have, about the relationships you value and the principles you have that are guiding you, and based on that making decisions about going back to school or maybe deciding to postpone, right? Or traveling or not. Like there's a lot of heaviness with Saturn in the 9th house around those topics. And the biggest question I think Saturn asks in the 9th house is like whether you believe in yourself, whether you have faith to stand up for what you believe, or whether you're choosing to let other people guide you perhaps, or other people motivate you. So very much needing to be rational and thoughtful about the future comes here. And let me know what was happening in your life in late February when we had the new moon in Pisces in your 9th house. What kind of education, travel, legal, publishing projects you've been thinking about at the time. If you are a Leo rising, we have a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 8th house, and you're making tough financial decisions. Very likely we just had Sun in the 2nd house, your desire to make money, your desire to be independent, your desire to shine professionally, opposed Saturn in the 8th, saying like, okay, but first you have these debts, right? But first you have these relationships that you need to clear. And so the full moon in the 8th is very much about that. It's very much about committing to pay off a debt, right? Or committing to better yourself, because the 8th house represents your give and takes dynamics with other people. So you're changing something in that area, right? Maybe it's also the time when you get a job with the Sun, but you cannot enjoy it as much because you have to pay off your debt, and a lot of your paycheck is going towards that. So the sacrifice comes in the shape of needing to be extra thoughtful and perhaps postponing the enjoyment of the fruits of your labor. So making changes, coming up with a strategy, a partner may be going through some kind of financial transformation, because 8th house represents other people's monies, other people's money. And maybe also breakthroughs in therapy, or some kind of changes in therapy, releasing an issue, releasing a habit, facing the shadows, transforming the pain from the past is likely here. If you are a Virgo rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 7th house. And we just had the Sun in the 1st house opposed Saturn in the 7th. So you may be struggling with questions of self versus relationship, self versus partnership, right? There could be a romantic issue where your partner maybe is pressuring you towards something, or you feel like your relationship is just feeling too heavy, right? Or it could also be about me doing things solo versus us doing things together. Maybe there is a business partnership that you're considering. No matter what it is, the full moon conjunct Saturn in the 7th is asking you to look seriously at your relationships and look kind of rationally without over-idealizing them. Let's be honest, Virgo rising, your 7th house is Pisces. You tend to be hella romantic, right? You tend to be very idealistic in relationships. So the full moon conjunct Saturn is saying you should take off the rose-colored glasses and ask yourself, is this relationship serving me? Are we on the same page? Can I see myself being with this person in a year, in a 5-10 years from now? Can I see myself being a parent with them, right? So based on the answers to those questions, you are either moving the relationship forward and perhaps making some compromises, right? And addressing things, or choosing to part ways. That is also a possibility here. And also, because this full moon feels like very much about trust, also I think learning to trust that you have what it takes to figure things out. Let me know what was starting in your relationships when we had a new moon in Pisces on February 20th this year, because those topics can be coming full circle right now. If you are a Libra rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 6th house. And we just had the Sun in your 12th house opposed Saturn in the 6th. So tension between mental health and physical health, rest and work, imagination versus the grind are all really present right now. And the full moon conjunct Saturn in the 6th is asking you to be real. What is possible for you to handle? Where are you overloading yourself? Where are you taking on too much? And what needs to be released, right? Perhaps it's time to prioritize your health. Perhaps it's time to start doing less work, right? Or commit to exercising, to eating better. There might be very kind of heavy topics connected to health that you have to address, as well as work, right? Completing, kind of releasing a work project that is too taxing and too overwhelming is likely here, making positive changes. But first you have to be totally honest with yourself and totally clear about what is important, what are your true dreams, and whether you're willing to sacrifice things in order to get them. And I wouldn't recommend that you sacrifice your health, right? It's not, nothing is as important as your health, because without health, you cannot enjoy anything. So really needing to find a good balance between your mental health and your physical health, and take good care of yourself is important here. So let me know what was happening professionally as well in late February. What were you thriving to achieve? What were you striving towards? I guess, yeah, striving towards. Thriving is a different word. Anyways, yeah, let me know down below. So if you are a Scorpio rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 5th house, calling you to make sacrifices and to make tough decisions when it comes to children, actual children, and creative babies, and love and joy, right? Look at your relationship to joy, look at the life of your child, look at your creative and romantic pursuits, and be realistic. We just had the Sun in the 11th house opposed Saturn in the 5th, suggesting tension between things you're trying to acquire or achieve on a social level. Maybe there's a group project, maybe there is a volunteer project, maybe there is some kind of social media initiative that you're working on. But Saturn in the 5th says that you can't have it all. You need to prioritize, right? Saturn in the 5th says that you really need to focus right now on this creative baby or your child, or a romantic relationship. It's saying that in order to achieve, like you can't have it all, not right now, and probably not just in general. It's not realistic. Oops. A microphone pack. I hope it didn't mess up the sound. So like I said, like with the full moon in the 5th house, you are examining your relationship to your child, examining your relationship to fun, examining your creative pursuits, and getting really honest and serious about those things. And because it's very much impossible, let's say for the most part, impossible to grow your career and become like a CEO at the same time as you're having a child, right? So one needs to be postponed, one needs to be sacrificed in order for the other one to complete. So here, I think you're being asked, what is more important to you? Is it being a parent or is it being a boss, right? And what are you willing to sacrifice in order to get to one of them? There might also be, with this full moon, there might be important developments in the life of your child. Maybe they, if you're divorced, let's say, maybe they're starting to see their father for the first time in many years. Like maybe there's some kind of big transformation, or maybe they're starting school. So there might be a sense of like kids growing up and a bit of sadness, melancholy connected to that too. And let me know what was happening in these parts of your life in late February when we had a new moon in Pisces. If you are a Sagittarius rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 4th house. And we just had the Sun in the 10th opposed Saturn in the 4th. So professional life versus home life, right? Some kind of duties around home, family, living situation that are affecting your professional life, that are affecting your dreams. So with Saturn and the full moon in conjunct Saturn in the 4th house of home and family, you really need to make some kind of tough decisions, some type of compromises, sacrifices. Be realistic about your living situation. Be realistic about your relationship with your family, because perhaps you have been looking for a job that lets you travel, but then your family really needs you and you don't feel comfortable leaving your family. So needing to examine your relationships, needing to examine the boundaries you have and either introduce better ones or make some kind of serious decisions, serious commitments in the sector of the home and family is likely. Maybe even you're selling a home, right? Or maybe you're finding finding a deal, but it's not as glamorous as you'd like, and you have to, let's say, you have to sell the house for cheaper than you were originally hoping. So once again, an element of hard realism, being grounded, is required with this full moon. And let me know what was happening in the sector of home, family, living situation in late February. We had a new moon in Pisces on February 20th. So let me know down below, because that is coming full circle right now. Full circle. If you are a Capricorn rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 3rd house, suggesting changes to your everyday life, writing projects, education, your schedule, your immediate relationships, and kind of the way you go about your day. You're transforming something. We just had the Sun in the 9th opposed Saturn in the 3rd, introducing tension between growth and having a structure, between kind of pursuing your dreams and handling things in the present, between like traveling and maybe dealing with responsibilities connected to siblings or neighborhood, right? So somehow your expansion gets compromised, or it gets delayed based on these everyday life considerations, which can also be like bureaucracy and waiting for signatures or waiting for people to say yes, right? And so this full moon in the 3rd is very much suggesting needing to compromise, needing to look at things realistically and maybe say, okay, I can't get the price that I want for my writing, for example, but I'm gonna take a lower rate for now, but then eventually I'm gonna keep working and I'm gonna get a better salary, let's say. Yeah, and like relationships with siblings can be transforming as well. You may be realizing that something is not serving you in this relationship, or even your place of living can be changing, because 3rd house deals with neighborhood. So with Saturn here, having to kind of release of a neighborhood, so maybe a move is a possibility here as well. But it feels to me that in order to get to where you're trying to go, right, with the Sun in the 9th house, in order to become a published author, in order to become a successful travel blogger, in order to become a teacher, you have to examine your everyday life. You have to examine your time wasters. You have to examine your communication with people, your relationships, and perhaps say no to some things. And it might be tough on your relationships, or might be tough to be saying no, but I think in the long run, the sacrifices you make now can help you grow in the future. It's just not the easiest full moon with that Saturnian energy. And let me know what was happening in your life in late February when we had a new moon in Pisces. If you are an Aquarius rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your 2nd house of personal finances, and you're experiencing a transformation when it comes to resources. So the Sun is in your 8th house. The Sun is interested in getting a mortgage, partnering up with other people, clearing debts, right? It's sort of interested in figuring out these give and take dynamics and maybe exchanging resources with other people. But Saturn in the 2nd is saying that you have to be very kind of willing to sacrifice your personal resources. If you're getting a mortgage, you have to make a huge investment. You have to live on a smaller resources, right? If you are starting a business with somebody, maybe initially the returns are very small and it feels less exciting, right? So you are very much on the precipice of some kind of important financial decision, and it's likely that it's going to be not as glamorous, right? Like there's going to be a need to be honest, to be realistic, to give something up. So I'm sorry that it might sound very kind of, not as rosy as maybe you would like. And of course, it could also be positive, right? Maybe you get like a payment or a settlement, but you have to invest it into something. Just doesn't look like there is like a ton of abundance, because Saturn is very much asking like, what's the long-term potential here, right? Like, what are you spending on? What are you investing into? And it wants you to invest in yourself. So sometimes in order to invest in yourself, you have to postpone the immediate satisfaction for the future gains and results. Let me know what was happening financially as well in late February, early March as well, when Saturn first went into your second house and we had a new moon in Pisces in your second house. Yeah, let me know down below. Last but not least, if you are a Pisces rising, there's a full moon conjunct Saturn in your first house. And we just had the Sun in the 7th opposite Saturn. So the Sun in the 7th is your relationship desires. Saturn in the 1st is your responsibility to yourself. The hard work you're doing on yourself, the structures you're putting in, the duties you're addressing. You're in a very like thick of it right now with Saturn in your first house, right? It's gonna last for a while, but like Saturn in the first house is making you feel like the time is running out. I have to make something out of myself. So very tense energy between like relationship goals and personal goals, right? And so the full moon conjunct Saturn in the first means that you have to make tough decisions. You have to make tough decisions and potentially sacrifices connected to either or. It's either yourself or relationships, right? There might be a need to, I think just, to me, it just feels like you're getting very kind of organized and very, yeah, serious about who you are. And maybe you're sacrificing something right now in order to have things better later. So like you're sacrificing time with your partner so that you can build a business and be successful, and then eventually have kind of ability to travel with them, right? Or you're saying no to going on a trip with your partner because you want to take care of your health. You have like a medical procedure or something. So definitely big changes when it comes to you, who you are. I think growing up is one of the energies of this transit. Take a look back at late February when we had a new moon in Pisces. What was happening? What kind of personal projects were you starting? What were you getting excited about? What was happening with your health, right? Late February, even let's say early March. Changes with this full moon can also affect your health. Maybe you're sort of realizing that your body is not 20 anymore if you're not 20, and you need to take better care of yourself. So there might be like kind of very serious realizations around this time. Sad, potentially frustrating realizations. It could also even be about like releasing a relationship because you think you cannot do both things. You cannot pursue your personal goals and a relationship right now. But I think it's definitely more about you and what can you no longer lie to yourself about. And that is likely connected to health, personal growth, career, bad habits, and relationships as well. So let me know how this resonates. Let me know what you expect this being about, and have a happy full moon, even though it has these serious vibes. Just do nice things to yourself, say affirmations, meditate, and it's gonna be great. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.